Hello, everybody. It's 2:48 a.m. Central Time on the 12th of November, 2022, Saturday morning here in the United States. And I've got you here on the Earthquake 3D live stream for a second update because there's breaking news. We have a new deep earthquake, a new deep 7 down below the West Pacific. This is not an aftershock. This is a separate earthquake. This is a pretty serious update that I have to do here because of what's going on. To take you back to the 9th, 3 days ago. Below the West Pacific, here, a 7.0 earthquake struck, prompting me to issue a warning for a shallower, larger earthquake to strike, which it did yesterday. A new shallow, large 7.3 up to 7.6. Some people showing 7.5, anywhere between 7.3 and 7.6. So a shallower, larger earthquake struck after the pink-colored earthquake. And that's this quake right here, again, up towards the surface. Now, the deeper these are, the higher they are off the planet so that we can see deep earthquakes. Now, the new deep 7 that just struck 500 miles, or 450 miles, north of the one that hit 3 days ago, and about 450 miles west of the one that hit yesterday, in the middle. And you see the letter D. The letter D stands for deep earthquakes. We don't move this around the planet. We have letter Ds where we expect new deep earthquakes to strike. This is part of the forecasting methodology. We look for deep earthquakes and then shallower, larger earthquakes to strike next to the deep quakes, spreading out and away from the deep quakes. And when they're this size, it can affect the whole planet. It can certainly affect the whole Pacific, including off the west coast of the United States, off the west coast of South America and Central America, over to the West Pacific, Japan. It's pretty much going to affect certainly the whole Pacific, and then spreading out and away over to Europe, spreading up and around to the United States, across the U.S., North American craton. Also should be going over to South America, and I've already got a forecast out based upon the previous Deep 7 that struck. Now, to show you really what's going on here, there's something going on down below the plates, and let me show you on the USGS plate boundary map where we're really moving. See India, Australia here on the Indo-Australian plate boundary between the Pacific. Here's the Pacific, here's the Indo-Australian plate, and right below it, right along the red line, which is the plate boundary. Picture this in your mind like a crack in the plate that starts at the surface and goes all the way down to the bottom underside of the plate. And now this matters because what's going on down below the plate, down on the underside of the plate, below it though, coming up on the underside of the plate, now I want you to imagine these earthquakes that are raised high off the globe like bubbles of pressure coming up on the underside of the plate, spreading up, out, and away in all directions. And as it's spreading up, out, and away, it hits cracks on the underside of the plate. And that's the first path that the big earthquake activity that comes up takes. So let me recap. A deep 7 struck 3 days ago, down below here, right in the West Pacific, next to Tonga. Then a new shallow 7.3 earthquake struck yesterday, here up at the surface, causing a minor tsunami. Then in between the two, a new break happens, down below again. So we should have a new amount of activity coming up on the underside of this. Here's our previous 7.0 earthquake, and here's our new 7.0 earthquake. It's marked as 6.7 because that's what it first came in at. 7 and a 7. And I already measured, but I'll do it again here on the screen for people. We'll measure in miles first. Then we will measure in kilometers for my international audience and science-minded audience that measures in kilometers, the metric system. So 458 miles, and in kilometers, that's 730. So 450 miles in one direction. Then the other earthquake struck over here, 450 miles east, right out by this little volcano that's out here. I don't even have a place mark. I don't think I have a place mark for it. Let's wait and see if we actually do. I don't think we do, but famous last words, right? haven't had to zoom in on it before, we have deep earthquake activity down below it. No, we don't have a place mark there for it. So really, we're down below the pinnacle tip of the Australian plate, which, when I measured it the other day, came out to me as being something that was a little bit odd at the pinnacle tip there. And that it's the same distance from up here to the pinnacle tip as it is down to New Zealand's back end. Right there. This is the same distance. I already measured it. I'm going to make a video on this. But we're out here at the pinnacle tip of it. Down below it. Whatever this is. The plate, I mean, of course. But it's the same distance on both sides, which is next to impossible. Because I'm finding these all over the planet. Anyway, we're going to go back over to it one more time. Deep earthquake down below. Shallow earthquake up above. 7.3 already struck. Now a new one has happened. Now I need to show you something else that's happening. Go down to 4.0. All of a sudden the Earth looks like a pincushion with a bunch of earthquakes raised high off the globe. Look, 2 new deep earthquakes in the last day struck on our letter D here at Japan and next to our letter D up here at the Sea of Okhotsk on the north side of Japan. I'm going to get all the other earthquakes out of there, and I just want you to look at the deep earthquakes in Japan. Again, they're raised high off the globe. So see how Japan, on the north side, we have a deep quake. On the south side, we have a deep quake. Well, let's go over and look here. On the north side of Japan, we have a deep quake. And on the south side of Japan, again, like I just said, we have a deep quake. Now look what's in between them. See the H-shaped plate boundary? Now, I want you to think of this like a giant slab of stone. And 2 people, or a giant countertop, a granite countertop that's going to be installed in your kitchen. And you got 2 guys, and they're going to be moving it in and out of the truck. And you get out there and inspect it, and you see right across the middle there's a big crack in the middle or somewhere close to the middle of the big slab they're going to be moving. And you tell them, you say, guys, okay, you're both lifting on the either end. Shouldn't we have a third person in the middle to maybe possibly support the middle just in case there's a crack in it? And they go, no, we got this. We do this all the time. And then they both lift up on the underside, and they carry it out, and boom, right in the middle where the crack was, it seeks out that break point. Doesn't matter how thick the stone is. Could be 30 feet thick, could be 30 miles thick. Turns out when you lift up on the underside of 2 sides of something that's broken, in the middle or to the middle of wherever you're lifting, it's going to sort out a natural break point, a fulcrum point, if you will, inside of whatever you're lifting on. So I want you to think of these deep earthquakes down below and then look in the middle point between them. Who's that? That's Japan. That's the coast of Honshu. Now, I've already issued a new warning for the coast of Honshu, which lasts for the next 7 days. So now 2 new deep earthquakes down below it. Now, as if that wasn't enough, on the opposite side of the plate, we have our deep earthquake from yesterday down below. South American plate, Peru, Brazil border. Look at that. So all sides, something's going on and spreading down below the plates right now. Please hear me out. First, in the middle, right here, in the middle of all this deep earthquake activity, this all happens. Now we're spreading out, following 10,000 miles of the plate boundary in each direction, out to both sides, the wings, as I call it, of the Pacific. Wings of the Pacific. Look, over to the east, you have the Cocos Plate and Nazca Plate. Over to the west, obviously, we go up into Japan and Taiwan and so forth over into Asia. So like wings on either side of the plate. And we transfer out and over to each wing of the plate when you get a big push coming up from underneath and it's spreading out that far in all directions. Hence the arrows. Arrows pointing over to the west, to the north, and over to the east. And all are being hit right now with new deep earthquakes, spreading below this. Something spreading from the middle out over to South America and up to Kamchatka. Wouldn't you say it's about the same distance from up here north of Japan down to Tonga as it is over to the deep earthquake at Peru? Wouldn't you think that's about the same? Should we measure? You guys want to? Let's do it, because we need to talk about South America and Central America next. So let's do it. Let's go up here just north of Japan. And we're on the second big island here to the north. I don't even need to get the name on it. Second or third. 1, 2, 3. Third big island to the north, our deep earthquake is down below it. And then we need to go all the way over to the border of Peru and Brazil. Pretty easy to mark. And then, of course, the middle point we're going to measure. I got to see how far it is apart, because if it's even close to the same mileage, that's going to be significant, because it's a spread going, what, half the planet in a day? So here's 1, 2, 3. Here's our island we're going to measure from the middle of, north of Japan in the Kuril Islands. We're going to measure down here to Tonga. And I'm just going to measure to the pinnacle tip, just to see. Okay, 7,700 miles. All right, now let's flip this over and go all the way over to the other side of the planet and just see if it's the same. It might be completely different. I just want to know. It's 3,000 miles more. No, this is kilometers. I'm sorry, in kilometers. It's 6,000 miles in one direction and 4,500 miles in the other. It's the rough halfway point if we go around the bends of the plate. Again, it's not perfect as the crow flies, which is what we were just doing there, doing as the crow flies. If we go around the bends of the plate, that's going to add on a few thousand more miles over on the west side, wouldn't it? It's as the crow flies straight over to here, but this way, look what we're doing. We're going around the bends of the plate. Wouldn't you say that would add on about 2,000 miles linear if we're going around curves and bends and all that so forth? Whereas this way, we're just going straight across. It is. It's about the same distance. It is. It really is. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I had to go measure for myself. There's no way for me to measure this all the way around the outside edge, so I would have to add in about 2,000 more miles linear going around the bend of the plate as opposed to just going straight across, right? Do you see what I'm saying? We go around this bend of the plate. It's going to add on a couple thousand more miles. Okay. Anyway, what does it mean? Something's coming up down below the plate here. It's spreading out up to here, and it's spreading across over to here. How much energy do you think it would take to displace the whole Pacific plate in a day down below? Then a new break happens. Then this one happens. This new one that I'm talking about. That's why it's such a big deal for me to get on and do this. I have to tell you, we don't normally see stuff like this. Normally it's one big deep quake, followed by a spread going across the planet. In this case, we have the one from 3 days ago, marked in pink right here, 500 miles to the south. Now a new one is broke up to the north. This means a new shallower, larger earthquake's incoming, on top of the one that just hit yesterday, and it's probably going to be striking in a different location than the previous 7. This is coming up at a different spot, therefore it's going to spread out to a different spot. So let's show you where we previously came up. We came up right down here, north of New Zealand, and then our shallower, larger earthquake struck up here, which the USGS still has on their feed, some earthquakes there. Now a new deep earthquake is struck in a slightly different location over here, 500 miles away. Well, look what's right next to it. An unmarked portion of the USGS plate boundary map that at this point I think should be marked as a plate boundary. I don't know why they don't have it marked when literally you can see this connecting between New Caledonia and up into Tonga. Do you see it? The U-shaped plate boundary there? Let me go back over here and look. It's missing going across Fiji. They don't have the plate boundary marked there for some reason. I don't know why. Anyway, we're fracturing in the middle of the plate boundary between where we go around the outside edge of it. And coming up down below it, something big. Coming up down below it, whatever it is. Because I already showed you there's something going on with this thing, guys. And I'm not just pareidylianing it. I measured it. It's the same. And it's not just that one. It's several continents where we're doing the same thing. Australia's one, where you measure from pinnacle to pinnacle. And it's the same. It goes back down here to the south. And now that you know what to look for, you can see it. And it's pointing from the back end of this right through the pinnacle tip. And look where it goes. And I already measured this. It goes from the pinnacle tip right back through. Now that you've seen it, you can't unsee it. And I can't believe what I'm finding. But I'm working it into my video now. And I'm going to put this out over on YouTube. I stand by this. This isn't the only one. Let me show you south all the way to Antarctica. But to see it, you have to look almost a planet away. So to see this, you have to look around the outside edges of the plate boundary. It's your classic Starford shape. It looks like a giant arrowhead going around the outside edge of Antarctica. Do you see it now? Maybe I need to zoom it in a little. It goes down, around, back, up, and up. It is. I'm not pareidylianing that. I already measured it. It's equidistant on all sides, or at least on these sides, classic Starford shape. That's Antarctica itself. Now, wait a second. I just showed you this one. And that's indisputable. I already measured that, and I already measured this. Now, I know it sounds crazy, but all the continents are apparently showing signs of this. So let me show you Russia, for instance. I have it marked in Russia. There's one in Russia, the same size as the one in Australia. So the one in Russia I showed in my update earlier, I measured it already. It's doing the same thing as the one in Australia. It's the same distance, actually, as the one in Australia. Compare that one to the one I just showed you in Australia, which is this one. Now, again, they're weathered over time, but it's indisputable that they're in that shape. And Africa, if we go in and look at Africa, it's doing the same thing to the center part of Africa, but that's just, you could say that's pareidolia. But to seal the deal that we're dealing with something serious, down in South Africa, right at the tip, the mountains themselves are taking the shape, and it's, again, equally spaced on both sides. And it connects back to a giant blown out area in South Africa. Now I've just shown you 3 continents in a row, and there's way more to what I've found. The United States has it, but you're not going to believe where it is. The United States has it, but it's blasted apart. Nunavut, same distance. Boom, boom, boom. And we can go over across into South America, which is the biggest of the bunch, which is here. Let me show it to you. South America itself, I measured on all sides, is the same. It's the same distance from the nook, the notch that comes in to make the starfort shape out to the continental shelf. This is not pareidolia, I measured. And over here, where we come in at the bend of the plate over here, it's the same distance, the exact same distance, almost down to the mile, if not exactly down to the mile, if you take into account the weathering. And then, when you zoom in here, this is the same. Let me just show you. This is the same distance. We already measured it, and I'm going to make a video on this separately, but this is the same distance, and we can draw a line, just like I did in Australia, to the center of the tip of the peak. Watch this. We go right through the center. We go right out to the tip, and we go 1,400 miles out to Ascension Island, where the 1,400 mile spacing begins. 1,400 miles to the coast of South America. We go 1,400 miles out here to Rapa Nui. We go 1,400 miles Rapa Nui to Pitcairn. 1,400 miles from Pitcairn across to French Polynesia, and French Polynesia across over to right to the edge of our giant shape. This is just some of what I found. It's indisputable, and I already measured it. Now the only question is, who could build a continent in the shape of a starfort? Who could create plate? And these are plate fracture boundaries. This is not pareidolia. You can see the fractures in the plate that go down at a zigzag angle, cut back across and back around. But to see it, you have to look a planet away. To see these, you have to look a planet away. And I measured it. It's perfect, guys. It's insane. United States, same thing coming off the tip. It's fractured off to the north. Over in Russia, it's the same thing. We're talking about continental-sized starfort. Now, to seal the deal, guess what else is? Well, here. Since this update is going into Never Never Land, here we go. I already measured this as well. It's the same. It's equidistant on all sides. It's the giant diamond shape, but to see it, we have to back it out again a world away. It's been fractured and destroyed over time. Something destroyed these. Something destroyed a lot of these, what I'm finding. Okay, so it is what it is. That's just a quick refresher on what I found. Oh, here's another one, by the way. Now, this one's the mind blower. It's 1,650 miles up to the pinnacle tip. You see it going from the Caribbean. I measured this. It's also a perfect rectangle. That's the Caribbean itself. But the edge of it goes up to the north. 1,650 miles from up here to down here. So guess what? If you measure from up here 1,650 miles, guess where it takes you? I'm not joking. We did it last night, and I'll do it again on another video. It takes you to Washington, D.C., the base of it, down exactly to D.C. I can measure it for you right now if you need me to. If you need to see it. This can't be chance. And we just go from the pinnacle tip up here, and you'll see. I mean, I'm just doing a rough measurement, but come right down here, following it perfectly. Do you see this? Look where it takes us. 1,650, right along the edge of it. Do you see? Here's DC. Right in there. Okay. Anyway, that's one side. And then on the other side, you go down this way, and it's 1,650. Or it's 1,666, actually. Look at that. It is. It really is. I'm not kidding. 1666. Look at that on one side. Does it bring it out this way, 1666 as well? Wouldn't that be crazy? Because you know what they're all about. Real close. It's so close. It's within a few miles. Ha! Anyway, I started finding this kind of stuff. And people were telling me, again, I showed my viewers live, and Europe is doing the same thing, but to see, check this one. This is going to be the one that blows your mind that nobody ever saw. Check out Russia, check out China, Russia, and Europe. Look what it does. It's weathered over time, especially on the north side. But I measured it already. It's indisputable. You have to look a world away to see it. But going from the pinnacle tip all the way up here, down to here, it's the same distance. And it's linear, and it's bending it because of the stupid curve to the earth. 5,300 and 5,300. Down to the mile on both sides. And then we come across 5,300. Well, a little bit more on the base. It's indisputable. I mean, people told me that I was, at first they said, what are you talking about? I go, here, take a look. It's indisputable what we're talking about here. These equidistant land masses, if you will. Now, this is the final one I'm going to show you, and then we're going to sign off. This one's going to really make you wonder. Now, when you're looking at something and you're seeing these all around the planet, but then you back it out and you see this, again, one final thing I'd like to point out to everybody. When you see something like this, you have to document it and make note of it, because otherwise, people in the future who stumble across these things might not know that either A, somebody else already discovered it, or they might not know to look into it further. So for instance, when we look at India and you find out it's doing the same thing that all the others are, with the equal distance spacing on all sides and making a giant shape that's a continent that's been formed, it's been made. This has been built somehow. These have been crafted in some way. I don't know how. I don't know who. I don't know even who would have the ability to shape continents. Humans couldn't. Not in our past unless it's been completely hidden from us. And even then, you would need the most advanced technology in the world to do these things. Somebody has to know DC's right at the backside of one of these things. And you can't tell me that it's chance or coincidence when it's matching up perfectly here, same distance from here to here to here, as it is from the inlet here up to the tip, down to the back end of the starfort shape that comes in. But to see the shape, you have to look a world away. And for Antarctica, this is the mind blower. Antarctica is the real mind blower on this. I cannot stress it enough. What do you want to make of it? You can't tell me that's chance or coincidence. Anyway, this video kind of got a little sidetracked, but we have earthquakes, deep earthquakes, striking down below the pinnacle tip of one of these things. And I didn't notice it until recently. I know people are going to think that that's crazy, but we have to be able to tie these together because of the other earthquakes that are striking down below them. So it is what it is. I promised my viewers I would bring them the unadulterated truth, sometimes even with me swearing, and show you what it is. What does it mean? Who had the ability to shape continents or make them? To shape continents now. This isn't like China building an island. This is continental making. Look, they're weathered down over time, which means at some point in the past, one more time, let me take you over to this and show it to you. What does this mean? This is one of the most mind-blowing things that would just ever, we can't even really talk about, I don't think people will even want to hear it. But I have to tell you, there's only one force I know that could make whole continents like this, in the shape of triangles and diamonds. I mean, if people were wanting proof of the supernatural, or proof that the earth was created in some way or made, these would have been perfect shaped back when they were first made. So this would have been perfectly shaped like a triangle. Perfect, with coasts that were almost, or exactly perfect. Exactly perfectly shaped. coastlines at some point in the past. They've been weathered down over time. Whoever made these a long time ago made them perfectly shaped in that shape. Now, that's the weirdest thing because it's the pyramids in South America and the megalithic monuments, but this is so much bigger. This is crazy, but it is what it is. Again, when you look at it from so far away, you have to be a planet away to see it. For crying out loud, you have to be a planet away to see it. It's troubling me more than it would trouble any of my viewers, I think, because what does it mean for the world of geophysics? I mean, come on, man. If you could prove God exists or something, then it kind of like throws earthquakes out the window. It would mean that something else is going on that has been hidden from us for an extremely long time. And apparently something has been being hidden from us for an extremely long time. Because again, this comes out and goes down to DC on one side, comes down and goes right past Haiti, right down to the dead end of the Pacific where it drops off. Can't be chance or coincidence. Exact mileage down to 1650 and 1650. Come on. That's just one of them. There's so many more. It's troubling, but sometimes the truth is troubling. If you find out something that's showing you that the world is not what you were presented, you have to confront it. Take the measurements on all of it. You guys are welcome to fact check me on all this. Take the measurements from up here where the bend in the plate comes in, up to the pinnacle tip of South America, and back down to where it breaks in down here. You will see it's the same. And then you see it's the classic starfort shape. But it's huge, that it's just the size of a continent. And then in the center of it is another one that is weathered and mountained. These are mountains, look. These are absolutely huge mountain ranges that are folded and bent in that shape. But originally, this was perfectly shaped. It's now been deformed over time and decay, if you will. But it is the same distance from right back here. You see it, goes up. It's the same distance from up here to the pinnacle as it is from the pinnacle to down here where it looks like there's a crater and a blast out on the backside. Now, that's something else you're going to find out. Something in common with all of these is that they have blast outs on the backside, including the ones in the United States, which I showed you previously. In the United States, Starfort that goes up, back down. We have Area 51 and the nuke test sites here over on one side. We have 29 Palms bombing range on the other. In the middle, we have Edwards Air Force Base right here. Edwards Air Force Base. And then right out at the pinnacle tip of the Starfort, we have where we do our space launches from Vandenberg Air Force Base out here. And this giant Starfort is 300 miles long, and I thought that was big. But this one, again, you can see it in the topography itself that's built into the back end of the Grand Canyon that got blown out. There's another one up here. It's a little harder to see. It's been weathered over time. You see the back end of it goes into a giant crater. Well, you see the top of it goes up to the north and comes back down to the south. Now, in between the two, there's another one that's even harder to see, but it goes up in between where the pinnacle tip of it comes in between Lake Tahoe at Pyramid Lake, and that's where our giant crater is. This is our giant oval-shaped crater that I had to find on my own. Well, look. Do you see it? Again, that's not pareidolia. This is in the topography itself. There's three of them. There's 1, 2, 3. And crater, Salt Lake City, Grand Canyon. They're hidden in the topography over a long period of time. They're weathered down. Whole continents made this way. Made, guys, made. Caribbean, made. Caribbean. This isn't from undersea bathymetric mistakes. This is true undersea topography that's been measured, unless somebody sculpted this. So either somebody rose this out of the ocean or somebody sculpted it. Either or, the answers just lead to more questions. So if somebody says, oh, yeah, well, sculpt it. Okay, we got more questions. Somebody says it was raised out of the ocean. Oh, we got more questions. And if you try to tell me it's natural, I'm just not buying that. I'm sorry. I'm just not accepting that anymore. Not after what I've found. So natural is thrown out the window. Who's going to make it? Who made it? Who made it? Now that you know what to look for, and you have to turn the earth upside down to see it. Well, I mean, you don't. You can see it the regular way, too. But the regular way we view the earth, apparently, is maybe designed to make us not see it. I don't know. But when you start measuring, you're going to see it. And it's the same. continental size now. You can't tell me. See, there'll be geologists who'll be like, oh, faulting happens through rocks, makes natural shapes all the time that are symmetrical. And I'd be like, yeah, it'd be like a hexagonal basalt, right? And they'd be like, yeah, hexagonal basalt, or those blocks down in Texas. The blocks in the ground. Looks like a wall. Not really a wall. Not any evidence of any ancient civilization. We're not talking about that. We're talking about whole continents that are perfectly shaped, perfectly symmetrical, down to the mile on both or all sides. And you know what to look for. It's opening up a boatload of questions. None of it blown apart. Pointing out over towards the other one. I mean, literally, we could go through the whole planet. They're pointing towards each other in many cases. Coming off of North America. Do you see it now? So, off of Nunavut, off of North America, but to see it come off of North America, and you can measure it. Feel free to measure. Feel free to measure. If you don't believe me, you can measure from down here at Florida, over to the Hudson Bay, back up and across. Same. It's an equilateral triangle. Backside of it, we have our other star forts coming off of this way, going and pointing out across the Pacific over to our other receiving end, which is this one, and on the side of, we have two more, which goes in like this. The California ones point to these two. And I already measured these. These are the same. These are on the side of Australia, making up the receiving end of what's on Australia's side. Australia's side comes into the triangle that goes back to the diamond, and we can measure from the back of the diamond, out through the center of the diamond, out across, curvature of the Earth, of course. They're doing this with Google Earth with the curvature of the Earth. Otherwise, it would be a perfect match, pointing out to the edge. But it is. I stand by my findings on this. It just opens up more questions that we can't have answers to yet. Africa does it itself. They all do it. They're all doing it. So they were made at some point in the past. Huge structures of landmass by somebody from a long time ago. And I'm doubting this. There's a reason they don't have the cameras up in space if whatever they are is what they say. Now, let me wrap this up, and we are recording this, so I'm going to go put this out over on YouTube. A deep earthquake has struck below the West Pacific. Now that you're just totally mind-blown at what I showed you. A deep earthquake has struck below the West Pacific. This means a shallower, larger series of earthquakes is incoming very soon, spreading up, out, and away from the center of this whatever I just showed you, the pinnacle tip of it, spreading out on both sides of it, out and away, following the quote-unquote plate boundaries, which are cracks between the plates. But if the plates are made, then we really have to ask what's down below it. And I am asking that. I'm going to get a sip of my coffee while you think about that one. Now, everybody in the Twitch chat room, I do have something to say to all of you because I'm going to be replaying this back over on YouTube. You guys know, and I publicly talked about it, I was very worried about bringing this information about the plates, what I found, to the public. And I asked my viewers on Twitch in the hundreds, should I talk about this on YouTube? And everyone, including people who normally aren't really on board with what I'm talking about, encouraged me to look into it and to talk about it. And so before you get upset with me or think that maybe I've gone off in the deep end, everybody in the chat room, if you were part of that over the last 2 days as I've been finding these things and measuring them and looking them up, and you witnessed it live with me, will you please press 1 in the chat room? Whether you're on YouTube or on Twitch, I'm going to play this back on YouTube. If you witnessed it live along with me as I'm discovering these things, go ahead and document yourself along with it because it's a big discovery. Now, finally, I'd like to give a shout out to Paul Cook. Paul Cook got me thinking about geopolymer, and he was postulating that possibly the shores of the UK and other places he was finding were poured in some way. But it would be impossible, right? How could you pour something? Well, I would propose to you that maybe pouring wasn't what was done. Maybe liquefaction, bringing it up using very low frequency of some kind. Cymatics, shapes, vibrated up out of the earth. But it would take so much power, it's unbelievable. But it could be done. Think of a bass speaker vibrating the sand. Do you ever see cymatic experiments? I'm not going to play them on the screen now. It's copyright on people's videos. But cymatic experiments. You take a speaker, you put a piece of flat paper or a flat surface, sprinkle salt or whatever, some kind of sand or anything, particles, on a board, and then you adjust the frequency of the speaker. bring it up from low frequency. You could hear it, it's coming up through the speaker, through the sound spectrum. And all of a sudden, these shapes start to pop out on screen, onto the surface. Shapes, geometric shapes. They look like snowflakes. And amazing shapes take form at different frequencies. And they're all different, like the hexagon and so forth, all the way up to very complex star shapes. The star forge shape will appear under certain tones, the exact star forge shape. So, under certain tones, the exact star forge shape with the diamond shape in it appears. Now, I don't know what frequency that is, but that would be applied on a massive level, and it would come vibrating up out of the ground. Now, imagine if that system got overloaded somehow. It would explode. Mother Earth goes into overdrive, or solar, or whatever, or God, or whatever, or a war happens and they fight each other and they do it to each other. Whatever, the system gets overloaded. Next thing you know, all the spots that were tied into the main system melt down and blow. Or just blow. And the people that are in those places, it might explain where they all went. Poof. Literally. Pile of ashes. Where did everybody go? Nobody knows. Okay, 3:24 a.m. I am saving this as a video, recapping a deep earthquake has struck down below the West Pacific. You need to have an earthquake plan. This is going to come up, out, and away, and spread up, out, and away. My previous video still stands. I don't have anything more to add to it. My video on the earthquake forecast itself. The only thing that this adds in is more power and more potential for shallower, larger earthquakes spreading up, out, and away. All the locations still stand. It's just more. Bigger. Over a longer period of time. Add 2 more days onto the warning for every location. Up the magnitude by a half magnitude at each spot that I've warned. That's what this really does. So this is a big deal. It's a big deal. And what I found is a big deal. Look, people asking for proof on God. Well, here's some continents that are perfectly shaped in the shape of triangle. Now you know why all the secret societies worship triangle. Why the pyramids and all that crap. So either somebody in the past shaped everything to be like a triangle, or God did it. People ask for proof on God. Who can shape continents? Don't tell me aliens. No way. No, not aliens. Not aliens. I'm not buying that. I'd be much more... Or I will introduce the other option, which is Matrix. I will entertain a Matrix. Maybe God made a Matrix. Maybe we're in some kind of computer system or something that's been made this way, and it's been weathered down over time. But originally, there is no doubt about it. They are exactly symmetrical. Exactly. Same down to the mile on all sides. I couldn't believe it when I started finding it. I had to start measuring. And when I started measuring and finding what I found, I said, I have to tell my viewers, but they're going to get pissed. There's going to be a bunch of people who just get pissed. But I challenge you. Go measure them. Go measure. Go measure everything I just showed you. Take the line measurement tool. Go measure. Proof of God, man. Why me? I feel like it's the movie They Live. And he puts on the sunglasses. You guys ever see the movie They Live? Puts on the sunglasses. This is the scene where Rowdy Roddy Piper has already put on the sunglasses, but then he wanders into a shopping market or something, and he's in there, and he's just like, I don't like this one bit. Figures it would be something like this. I think that's what he says. Figures it would be something like this. But he goes, I don't like this one bit. Figures it would be something like this. It does. It figures it would be something like this. Of course I'm going to be the one to find it. That's probably why the USGS has been trying so hard to stop it. Dutch is going to eventually see earthquakes below these giant star forts and start measuring. And then he's going to flip the Earth, and he's going to see that everything's pointing in the opposite direction that it should. And it's all pointing down towards Antarctica, which just so happens to be in the shape of a giant star fort itself, but it's the outside plate boundaries that are? Dude, what am I supposed to do with that info? I'm going to take it to the public, but what do we do there? Okay, so it's been built. Who built it? Why are they hiding this? How am I the first person to find all this crap? Why do I have to bring it to you? I feel like I'm complaining to God now. God, why do I have to do this for everybody? Because they're going to totally beat me up, but you know what? It's the truth. Go measure. You'd have to tell me that's all chance or coincidence if you want to go down the road of it being just natural. Chance or coincidence. And I am not buying chance and coincidence on that many locations. No way. So deep earthquakes down below the pinnacle tip of it, why did I never see it before? Well, I never knew to look. And I want to thank the people who pointed me in the right direction to start questioning the official narrative on plate formation. And not just to question it, to be open-minded towards the possibility of it being made somehow. And Paul Cook's evidence showing along the English shorelines is one more example of many, but I already showed you all of Europe and Russia. It forms the giant pinnacle tip going right up to the UK, and the UK is at the pinnacle tip of that giant shape that I already showed you that makes up Russia and Europe. Can't be chance or coincidence with that either. What's their whole thing with the pyramids and the UK? Now you know why. But that means somebody somewhere knows. I mean, the people who built Washington, D.C. would know. They would know about that giant shape there and the way the Earth is supposed to be oriented. And then there, boom. Okay, Washington, D.C. is on one back side of it. The other one is a volcano right down off the south side of Puerto Rico, really, is the other side. Absolutely nuts. I will bring you everything I find and tell you what I think it is, no matter what it is. I don't care if I lose subscribers over this. I will tell you what I find. If you disagree, you'd have to tell me it's all chance. All those spots that I just showed you. And this doesn't count the deep earthquakes. I hate to mix the two, but I have to do this. I have to get this out now. Because if anything happens to me, I don't want this one to get lost. This is like as big as finding earthquake forecasting. This is big as finding HAARP rings. This is as big as finding geopolymer. This is big as finding some ancient... This is like finding... I'll have to use the analogy, what movie it's from. It's like finding a 747 airliner back in the... It's Jurassic Park, actually. Spared no expense. 747 airliner back from the Jurassic period. No. What movie is that from? I don't know what movie that's from. Anyway, we've gone way off the rails here, but it's in a good way. You need to be open and look at things in a different way than the way you've been shown by the professionals. Apparently, the Earth is oriented in a way to make it so it's hard to see. But now that you know what to look for, I don't think you're ever going to unsee it again. This isn't like seeing a face in a rock or a tree or seeing some kind of shape in the clouds. This is measured. You can measure it yourself. Oh, it's so disturbing. You know how many people are going to just be extremely butthurt over this? Their whole world confronted on the existence of God? Well, who can make these? Well, either aliens. Here's their choices, right? Well, you either got aliens, you got giants, or you got God. Or you got Matrix. They're all going to go for Matrix. They're so butthurt about God. Anyway, I'm not going off on a tangent there, but you guys know what I'm talking about. All right, much love. Let's save it and get it over to YouTube. Watch the meltdown commence. No, I think people on YouTube can handle this info. They're just going to be mind blown, that's all. What do you do when you find out that the continents were made by somebody a long time ago and they didn't just pop up out of the ocean naturally? That they're shaped in the giant Illuminati pyramids or something? Can't believe it. They got to be talking to each other very low frequency-wise, which explains the earthquakes coming up out of them. Reactivating. Much love.